Going over to the political part podcast, the evil Canadians banning guns, well, de facto. Brought to us thanks to Wall Street Maverick, and he says, quote, Canada is forcing all Canadians to turn in their guns. They have 1 year to get compensation by handing in their guns. Starting October 2026, it will become criminal to own a gun. Yet another reason not to live in the hellhole, the totalitarian hellhole that is Canada, which I purposely mispronounced as a slight to that weak, conquered country. And now, sorry, I credited this to Libs at TikTok. This is Alberta News that there's a clip of as well.
Voluntary. How is this? You say that the program is voluntary, but after the amnesty ends, the people are not in compliance with the law. So how is this truly voluntary?
So Canadians starting in Cape Breton today will be able to enroll in the program, be able to get compensated if they were to turn their firearm in, or they will be able to get compensation if they deactivate and confirm that it's deactivated with a certificate. So it is strictly voluntary. Nobody is being forced to...
Again, different countries have different standards when it comes to deactivation. If you want to see fun stuff you can easily buy on Gunbroker, just look up deactivated. If you're in the country, there's more or less steps. Some of them actually require, if you have a semi-auto handgun, to weld it so that the slide can't move. Some of them involve plugging a gun, where you take they just take a piece of metal, they weld it into the barrel. It's a methodology to make the gun inoperable and near impossible to actually reactivate. That's why if you want, you can get an RPG deactivated on Gunbroker like that, because again, it's just a glorified paperweight. In that case, I believe they actually weld a pin through the tube, so it actually nothing can go through it. Again, different countries have different standards, but at the end of the day, it is a inoperable gun. It becomes a paperweight.
To undertake the buyback program. Well, the expectation is that they will comply, and
And what if you don't?
And the order in council, as you know, is being extended from this October to October of 2026. So there is a 1 year window. Our expectations is that law-abiding citizens will abide by the law, and beyond that, the police of jurisdiction is tasked to, as you know, implement the criminal code.
If Canada is a rule of law, why did you offer to pay someone the difference in compensation and bail them out of jail? You're a minister. Why'd you say that?
Let's maybe put this in context. This was a private conversation with an individual that I've known for many years. I said these two issues frankly, in bad humor, that is being misinterpreted. It is very clear that there was a private conversation. It is with someone. It is an acquaintance.
You believe what you said on the phone?
Well, first of all, it's not the phone. It was in the context of a private conversation in person. What is
AKA when your guard was down and you didn't think you were going to get recorded.
Important is that if you look at it in context, that was not a serious attempt. It was a bad attempt at humor on my part. It was in no way
just a joke
to suggest that they will either I will bail them out or otherwise. That is not.
Why should do humor about? Is it a subject you should do humor about?
Let's look at the context of it. It was a 20-minute conversation, and as part of the conversation in a private setting, it was a range of issues that we discussed. So it is humorous.
If you want to say one thing in private and one thing different in public.
Your intention was to see that this program moved along quicker, and what we have today is maybe, hopefully, 200 guns in Cape Breton. Have you not failed at the task of getting this moving faster?
Absolutely not, because we need to test the system that we have for individual gun owners. The next 5 to 7 weeks is a test period. It will enable us to go through the glitches. In fact, I did the enrollment last week as a trial run, and I came up with some suggestions to improve it. Those improvements were done. What we anticipate is feedback that we get with Cape Breton. We will be able to strengthen and make it a better program overall.
Madame Provost, juste une dernière question. Madame Provost, est-ce que...
What a piece of human scum. And I'm usually not this bombastic, or I don't usually, well, maybe sometimes do in terms of, verbal attacks on these political pieces of shit. You will be fined or jailed indefinitely, probably, if you do not comply. Again, is it de facto gun confiscation? One of the most evil, morally vacuous things government has ever done in history. And again, I know a lot of people don't read history books these days, but if they do, Every time in history, every single time the government takes guns, the worst things in history happen. One of the most cliche ones that people do reference is World War II with the Nazis and Hitler. Again, they had a gun registry. First, they took the guns from the Jews. Then they took them for everyone else, and no one could stop them. You saw this with the Soviet Union. Same thing in China. The worst things in history always happen after the government disarms the people. And this is so disgusting. And again, I've made fun of Canada for years because they have no freedom of speech. They have no legal right to bear arms. Again, this is a country that's so pathetic, and they have no care for the citizens, the taxpayers, and their freedom and their ability to defend themselves and their family. This is a country where they had a sheriff in Canada where there's an increase of home robberies. Now, in America, not in every state, you usually have a castle doctrine, you have the ability, you have standard ground laws where you have the legal right, I would argue the God-given right, to defend yourself and your family. In Canada, as I purposely mispronounced as a slight to that terrible place, one of their police officers said, oh yeah, these thieves just want stuff. Just leave your car keys in front of your house, and that way there won't be conflict. Well, first of all, you're assuming that the bad guy only wants your physical stuff and not to hurt you and your family. Big mistake, because a lot of times they want to do that as well. So the Canadian way is bend over and be the victim. Thank God I don't live in that hellhole that is Canada, and my parents had me in America where you can defend yourself. Now, that being said, Americans, be on your toes. We had this same thing happen under the Trump administration the first time around. Remember the bump stock ban. Now, again, there's an instance where the ATF also reinterpreted it. It goes, we're going to make that a machine gun. Now, thank God Americans have more of a spine than Canadians. I'm not saying much. Bar's pretty low. Or should I say the hockey stick, pun mildly intended. The United States, if you break the NFA Act of 1934, which regulates things like short-barrel rifles, short-barrel shotguns, explosives, machine guns, suppressors, and more, if you break that, aka you purchase that item without the paperwork, the fingerprints, the photo ID, or passport photos being taken, do all that stuff, it is a $250,000 fine or 10 years in prison per item. Now, again, when they said the bump stock, Trump wanted to ban that, it goes, all right, we're actually redefine this as a machine gun. Spoiler, longer term it didn't. And it's an instance where, well, it went against the whole legal definition of machine gun. There's an abhorrent piece of executive order. However, the ramifications would have been if you were caught with that bump stock and they wanted to try you under that definition or under their rewriting of the law and the executive order, you've been charged with a machine gun, which again, if you do not own a transferable machine gun and buy it the proper way, which you can in many states, very expensive because they had to be registered and manufactured before 1986, thanks to Reagan. But again, if you have that, $250,000 fine, 10 years in prison. In the United States, Trump passed that executive order. Well, there's something pure American about telling the government to F off when they infringe on your rights. Pretty much everyone, mass non-compliance. Now, we also saw this in the United States with the pistol brace ban as well. That's where they also redefined it so that instead of having a pistol or an AR-15 pistol, with one of the most popular configurations with a brace on it, they said it was going to make it a stock, which again, a stock would make it a short-barreled rifle. Mechanically, the same, but laws and logic when it comes to firearms usually don't mix. They're usually just stupid, arbitrary, and ways to infringe on your rights. But again, that would have made you in possession of one of those items as classified and regulated under the NFA Act of 1934. Same thing, 10-year prison or $250,000 fine. Now, again, I smiled ear to ear when we found out the statistics on how many people went down to the local police department and turned in their bump stock or turned in their pistol brace. Now, it was estimated there's between 4 and 20 million of those pistol braces in the United States. Not even 1% were turned in or registered, which I don't know how much of a simp you have to be to register a pistol brace to make your rifle an SBR. Some of them did. It's comical and pathetic that they acquiesced, but a lot of people just said, and as a joke on the internet still is, whoopsies, I lost it in a boating accident. Now, Canadians don't have much of the spine compared to Americans. I wish they did. They would make different decisions with who they put in political power. But I do actually think in Canada, they will have a fairly high percentage of people who turn in the firearms willingly. And again, this is a de facto ban. They'll give them a couple gift cards or a Pop-Tart or something like that. Wait, I'm sorry, it's Canadians. What will they give them? Look, give them a nice Tim Hortons gift card or some maple syrup or a Justin Bieber CD or record, whatever the kids listen to these days, or a poster of Pamela Anderson. That concludes everything good or everything that's ever come out of Canada and the Ford GT. But it's an instance where, yeah, they are in places where they're importing people that are causing mass problems. In the UK, there's people. I'm trying to keep this moderately family friendly. There are areas in the UK where people are being abused in the worst possible way, in an adult way, every hour. The statistics on who is committing those crimes, a lot of them are being imported that have not had a background check. And again, I do wonder how many Canadians will finally say, no, enough is enough. You do not have the right to disarm me, to take away my able to protect myself, my family. I'm so flabbergasted I can barely speak. Though I can barely speak in general, so perhaps it's not saying too much. That's why I always say, like, subscribe, and comment. When I first started the show, barely anyone tuned in, well, maybe family, and I spoke faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. But as I slowly but surely gain more subscribers, I've been slightly better at my speaking. A lot of people would say, no, you still suck, it's terrible. However, I would argue, statistically speaking, it's gotten a little bit better, which fuels my theory. The more people that click that button, the more better I'll get at speaking. See, you didn't click that button enough, not speaking proper grammar. So you click that button, greatly appreciate it. Also, tell your friends and tell your enemies. Enemies might be so enamored and impressed by your choice in podcast material, they then become your friends. Or they hate me in my face so much, they actually hate you even more. The enemy escalates to a physical confrontation, so perhaps they shouldn't recommend it. I mean, either way, it'd make an interesting story, so why not? So tell your friends and your enemies. Now, again, I think it's disgusting that any law-abiding citizen anywhere in the world should have the rights taken away, especially the right to defend themselves and their family with a firearm. One of my favorite quotes is, God made man, but Sam Colt made man equal. Sam Colt being the inventor of the Colt revolver, the first commercial viable revolver that actually successfully would repeat firing every time you pulled the hammer back. It's the best way to equalize any confrontation. We got a 90-pound woman going up against a bodybuilder, or a 90-pound man. Maybe it's a Democrat man. And it's an instance where going up against a bodybuilder, you're not going to be able to beat him. The guy's 200 pounds, you're 90 pounds. However, if you got a firearm, have a way to equal the playing field. That's why I'm a very much advocate for the Second Amendment. Now, this went pretty well. I got 3.7 million views and 42,000 likes. And one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Valentina Gomez, and she says, quote, Canadians should learn from the British about how things have turned out, getting 2.5 thousand likes, which, yes, I do mispronounce as a slight to that weak conquered country. Yet, they're being abused left and right, and their country is burning to the ground, literally. They also have the conservative alternatives saying, quote, it's funny how the left accuses everyone of being a Nazi, yet on the subject of gun control, they copy the Nazi strategy verbatim, getting 756 likes. Yep, they absolutely do. David Sullivan says, quote, don't do this, beg us, come help. David Sullivan, I'm sorry, I should pronounce it. I should respect his pronouns. Prosecute Fauci. And again, he says, don't do this, beg us to come help, which, yeah, Canada would never, again, the government would never do that because they don't want any they don't want freedom anywhere. They just want to destroy guns. They don't want people to have them. And oh, it breaks my heart when you see beautiful firearms being destroyed. You saw this in Australia when the good guys gave up their guns, and then obviously the bad guys took over. And of course, they're having more issues down there with theft and tragedies. And it's something so disgusting about pieces of history being destroyed as they burn and throw these firearms into smashing machines, it's cutting machines. Terrible. That did get 89 likes. Someone did a Photoshop of, what was that famous actor? Not Robert, no, what is it? He's in the Titanic, which I've actually never seen. Also, same with Forrest Gump. There's a couple classics I've never seen, but kind of get just the Family Guy jokes, so you know about what the movie's about. Leonardo DiCaprio, it's like him and Thomas Jefferson mixed together. It's from Scott Case, saying, quote, the British gave up their guns, and now the government puts people in jail for Facebook posts. Yep, getting 9.8 thousand likes. You're damn right they do. But I should never give them up. Yeah. And again, rights taken away are rarely ever given back. Give them an inch, they take a mile. Let's see here. Runs with Scissors says, quote, want to stop drunk drivers from killing sober drivers, ban sober drivers from driving. That's how gun control works, getting 3.6 thousand likes. Yeah, Runs with Scissors also with a meme from Ronald Reagan saying, quote, under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm the people must be stopped by force if necessary. Getting 5.3 thousand likes. However, it's Ronald Reagan. So again, I'm not very happy with because of him, machine guns are expensive. I say that because if you want to buy a suppressor, which I highly recommend, they are legal in 42 states, a great way to make shooting more fun. You can actually have follow-up shots so you're not deaf and concussed if you're self-defending yourself and your family inside a house. But since it's where if you want to buy a suppressor now and your state allows it, you can do that. it could be made from Surefire or Silencer or Omega. It can be made today and you buy it. You have to pay it will soon be a $0 tax stamp, but it used to be a $200 tax stamp, and you have to do all the paperwork, fingerprints, passport photo taken, all that mountain of paperwork. But you can't. Machine guns, however, because of Ronald Reagan, he signed off on something that had this built into the bill. He shouldn't have done it. If you want a machine gun, you can in more than half the states. The machine gun had to be registered and manufactured before 1986, thereby greatly decreasing the supply so that an AR-15 it's called a transferable machine gun, as in if you're a citizen, follow the law, you can buy it. A transferable AR-15 machine gun is about $30,000 plus. It should not be more than $1,000 like a standard semi-auto, but yeah, $30,000 plus. And it really is the most expensive piece of metal is a registered full auto sear, which again, that is a part in some cases, sometimes it's the receiver, sometimes it's just the lightning link. It's just, that's the part that's regulated as a serialized piece. But yeah, it's one of those things where because of him, those machine guns are very expensive. A Mac 10, which should be not worth more than $500, but if it was a full auto Mac 10 or Mac 11 and registered before 1986, those sell for $13,000 plus. An Uzi is like $22,000. It's one of those things where they should not cost that much. But because of the very, very, very limited supply and the greater and greater increasing demand, they cost more and more. Which sucks because that means the average American cannot really realistically afford a machine gun. The cheapest machine gun is usually the Mac 10. And those, again, start at 13 grand now. And there are also some people who treat them as investments and never fire them. So you actually see some machine guns never fired for sale on Gunbroker transferable. It'll be like $130,000. And it'd be great if Trump were to be, I would argue, more pro-gun and maybe work on getting rid of the NFA Act of 1934. Yeah, it's been almost 100 years of tyranny. Republicans have the House, the Senate, the White House. Come on. Again, the big beautiful bill got rid of the tax that had nothing to do with the registration of the machine guns or the registration of the items. They still have to be registered. It's a fun fact, it's a one-time inflation helped people out. Again, that law was passed in 1934 for $200 tax stamp per item, which again, back then a suppressor was $7. $200 then versus now is about $4,800. So there was not a clause in the bill to actually, because again, they said at the time, these are illegal, we can't outlaw them, but we're going to tax them, which again is bullcrap. But yeah, not to pontificate too much on that one thing or that subject. But yeah, that's one of the reasons, or that's one of the times where inflation actually helped us. Is like $200 now is nothing compared to what it was back when the law was passed. And yeah, I wish Republicans were more pro-gun. So many oftentimes I feel politically homeless. But yeah, it's like you had the White House, White House and Senate multiple times throughout the years, and that law is still in the books. And yet Republicans will say they're very pro-gun. Yeah. Going back to the main comment section, you also have Global Traveler. It's actually George Washington doing the meme from The Office, pointing at the whiteboard. He says, quote, "We're not worried about specific types of firearms. We're worried about specific types of government." Getting 5.9 thousand likes. Runs with Sisters also, I mean, this gal is just killing it with the memes. Am I following her already? I should. She's got 276 followers, or 92 followers. There we go. And she says, quote, "People who think you should be able to own guns." You got the Founding Fathers, Lincoln, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and it says people who don't think you should own firearms. You got King George III, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, Kim Jong-un, and Barack Obama. Getting 3.1 thousand likes. Mike C has a meme from Forrest Gump, which I've never seen, but yeah. Maybe one night I'll see all the classics I'm told are really great to watch. It says, hey, I know the accent just from like clips. Will it be the worst impression of Forrest Gump? Probably, but nevertheless, the attempt will be made. He said, let's see, you need to get in the Forrest Gump, Jenny. In 1776, the British demanded that we surrender our weapons. We shot them. That got 4.8 thousand likes. Not my impression of Forrest Gump, but that specific meme. Christie says, quote, "Once you give up your guns, they're going to kill you. You know that, right?" Getting 3.9 thousand likes. Or throw you in jail. Again, in the UK, they're putting people in jail for memes. They're punishing people more for memes than physically hurting women and children. That's disgusting. And also shows you how weak and conquered the UK and Europe is. And the man worth his grit would probably revolt. Not that I would break YouTube's terms and conditions and ever insinuate violence is ever valid, yada, yada, yada. You also have Pork Chop Express saying, "I turned my gun in to end violence." And the guy goes, "Did you turn in your private part to end rape?" And 1.9 thousand likes. Daniel McLaughlin says the Second Amendment explained. It's a hot gal with an AR-15. He's missing a magazine, though. Again, good trigger discipline. Her finger's not on the trigger. It says with, and it says without. It's a Oleg Burkas getting 4.2 thousand likes. Let's see. Gaudia, this has to be a troll, says that's the way it should be. A gunless society is a safe society. One moron. Got 61 likes. And was ratioed, as the youth might say, whiskey silver ball. Says, quote, was it one of the famous pictures, I think it's from Auschwitz, but it's the tray of all the wedding rings from the folks they had killed. It says, before they collected these wedding rings, they collected all their guns, getting 459 likes. Yep, they did. Let's see. Rumpus says, given your guns to someone else does not give you a gunless society. It just means you don't have guns anymore. Getting 541 likes. Yeah, kind of like Chicago. Yeah, and they banned most guns in places like Cook County, Chicago. Freedom Anonymous says, is a picture of a Native American. It says, quote, if the government says you don't need a gun, you need a gun. Getting 609 likes. And yeah. And someone has a meme of Trump taking over Canada with the flag, American flag. I mean, shoot, they could definitely use some freedom over there. It's sad to think most of them will probably comply and become more and more of a victim. But I don't know. Let me. What do you think will happen with Canada? Do you think they'll vote them out, get some new leadership in? Maybe they're just mass non-compliance. Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how to make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone, everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.